Since I'm not there and you're watching this video, it means that I'm stuck on a plane, and I would so much rather be there with all of you. But since I'm not, here we go. It was New Year's Eve, and I did something I've never done before. I embraced a mantra, a phrase to ground me as I headed into the new year, and I wrote it on a chalkboard. Now, this was the first time I've ever done something like this. I just never really had a word or phrase that resonated with me before. But this, boldly be yourself, wasn't the result of a vision boarding session or some fancy creative endeavor. It came to me unsolicited, and not as a joyful, motivational motto, but out of pain. The result of a lifetime of others telling me that I wasn't who they thought I should be. When I was a little girl and visitors came to our house, it didn't matter who it was, I would run upstairs, put on my finest dress-up clothes, and yell down to my mom that I was ready and that she and my dad and our guests could gather around and watch in sheer adoration, obviously, as I sashayed down the stairs in my own imaginary spotlight. But over the years, somewhere along the way, that little girl, who was always the star of her own show, was told to come off the stage. In school, I was smart and outgoing, and I loved learning, which was often twisted around as too eager, too ambitious. I was told to step back by some, as not to get too much of the spotlight. Who did I think I was anyway? I got involved in theater in high school and became a pretty serious singer, voice lessons and all. But when I auditioned for an elite program, the director told me that I had the talent, but she just couldn't put her finger on why she didn't really like me. Something about me, about who I was, had been just a little too much, too ambitious. So I turned down the volume on myself, stepped back more into the likable mold of who I was supposed to be, a pleasant supporter of others, but certainly not the star. And I made that program the next year. Lesson learned. Years later, I had a boss who was one of those early is on time is late, and late is unacceptable types, who set a high bar for everyone. He didn't really love me at first because he saw me as too soft and too nice. He even told me that my voice was too high-pitched. So I hardened. I won him over by overachieving and becoming the mold of who he wanted me to be. By keeping my head down and grinding and overachieving, I won. And he once told me, towards the end of working for him, "You know what makes you so great, Lindsay? It's all the extra time you give." Grinding and striving became my new path to success. In the years that followed that conditioning, I found my success by keeping my head down and my work exceptional. I was one with the grind and lost myself to my work. I was pretty far off the stage and out of the dress-up clothes at this point. But this approach blew up in my face when, as a new mother, I was working extremely hard and around the clock to prove myself by overperforming and overworking, which is why I will never forget the day the president of that company told me that I was too aggressive, too assertive, abrasive even, cold and inflexible. This was especially difficult to hear as I had been working so hard, striving for so much, and this feedback was about me, not my work, but who I was as a person. And making it even deeper, I had thought of this woman as a friend. So I softened because I was told to. And years later, I was working out the details of another job offer, and I was negotiating my salary when the CEO told me that he liked me and all, and that he had 3 daughters, so he was in full support of women. But he just couldn't give some nice, cute girl that kind of money. The same exact salary that I knew was in line with one of my male counterparts. This time, I was not only too nice, but also apparently too female. Throughout my life, I've been told that I'm too nice, too cold, too tall, too small, that I talk too much, that I don't talk enough, that my dreams are too big, that I'm not dreaming enough, that I'm too bold, somehow also too reserved, too female, and not feminine enough, that I'm too much of a mom at work, and that I'm not enough of a mom outside of it. All of this has conjured up a life of striving and grinding and struggling, and while I was successful on the outside, I felt burned out and hollow inside. I was too everything and never enough of anything. I was putting my worth in other people's opinions and contexts, and I wasn't putting value on who I am, and that was exhausting. While I can't put my finger on exactly what it was, what the straw was that broke that camel's back, but on New Year's Eve, I was done with it. Done listening to the naysayers that wanted me to know that I wasn't who they thought I should be. I looked back at all that I had done at that point, an increasingly more and more successful career, 3 kids, including twins. That's right, I made 3 humans, 2 of which were at the same time. I started and ran my own consulting business, I stayed fit, and somehow earned a master's degree in the midst of it all. And then I realized something. Through all of that, the consistent thread through it all was me. So why was I listening to anyone else? Thus, boldly be yourself chose me and settled in as my mantra for that year. I went back to work after that holiday break and started working on my marketing strategy for the year. I knew in my gut that our company needed a podcast, and I faced some pushback at first, and before discovering boldly be myself as my mantra, I might have second-guessed myself or stuck to the expected or the status quo, but now things were different. I trusted myself as the expert here. I took that budget of mine and I launched a podcast for our company. And for the next year, I hosted that podcast. And in doing so, I found my voice, literally and figuratively. That podcast led me to leaving my stable job as a VP at a global software company to start a company of my own. And today, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Casted, the first and only marketing platform built around, get this, branded podcasts. And exactly 1 month ago today, 1 month ago to this day, I stood on a different stage and officially launched that company out into the world, surrounded by people who showed up for me, the real me, including this incredible group of Rise and Thrive women. All because I stepped up to boldly be myself. I wrote that on a chalkboard on New Year's Eve in 2017 as a mantra for the year ahead. But you know what? It's still there and has become a mantra for my life. I think back to that little girl in dress-up clothes who was asked to step back off the stage and out of the spotlight. She's grown up now, and it may have taken some time, but she is standing here today in dress-up clothes, on a stage, in the spotlight, standing tall in her story as a badass woman who is boldly being herself.